Good evening. I want to talk tonight about the cost of living crisis. I mean, we all know it's not even a secret, right? I was just at Tesco's today, which is, if you're out of the UK, it's basically the main supermarket in the UK. You go around the shop, you buy a few small things, and yes, you can cut back your costs, but it's a lot more expensive than what it was just a couple of years ago. The cost of living crisis, to a degree, is absolutely a real thing. Now, there are things that we can all cut back on, that is true, but even then, it's inexcusable to say that the cost of living has not gone up. It obviously has, irrespective of how cheap you want to be. At the same time, though, there is a front to the cost of living crisis which I don't think most people understand. Because most people see the cost of living crisis as something which affects us all. It isn't. The cost of living crisis means that someone is getting rich. Now, this may seem like common sense, but I really want to explain this in the most simple terms so that everybody can understand this. There's a lot of young people who watch my videos. There's a lot of people who may not have any financial knowledge at all. I want to explain how this truly works. And I want to tell a story that I've told a couple of times here on the channel, but this sums it up very, very simply. And it's a story about when I was working in my job that I did last year. Essentially, we were working in this shop. It was a luxury goods shop, and we were selling loads and loads of stuff. The guy that I was working with on the shop floor, we were speaking about how much profit the company's making. The guy goes, "Yeah, it's terrible. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer." I said to him, "Well, how does this business get rich?" And I actually knew the answers, right? I said it's because, and he didn't really know. I said it's because people buy the goods, right? The goods help the revenue. The company's publicly listed. People want to make money off this business. So long story short, I'm not a financial expert, right? But I'm just giving him the summary. The better the business does, the more the stock price goes up. So the people who own the business own the shares. So when the shares go up, they make more money. Now, the thing is, guys, this is the reality of a lot of things. And I want to tie this back to the concept of inflation. We hear about inflation all the time, right? Inflation's bad. Inflation erodes all of our incomes. But it doesn't. Inflation doesn't erode everything. Inflation generally means that money is worth less and assets are worth more. I'll use some clear examples of things that I've discovered and watched over the last few years, some of which I've actually even invested in myself. You've got silver, you've got gold, you have got tech stocks, the markets in general, right? So we can talk about less money or money going less far, but there are more dollars about, more pounds about. And those pounds, because of the fact that people who are intelligent with them know that they don't go anywhere, they're not worth anything of what they used to be, even 5 years ago, right? They put them into assets. So then you see market bubbles forming, or maybe it's not a bubble, who knows, right? But you see market prices rising, right? The cost of living crisis, inflation is not bad for everybody. Inflation for some people is very good. And I'm trying to make this video as basic as possible. So if this does make sense, let me know in the comment section, leave a like. If it doesn't, that's fine. And I'll explain it in another one. Let me use an example, right? Let's say I've got a pen here, so I'm going to use the pen. I've been using the pen for the last few videos as an example. This pen, right? Let's assume that this pen is £1, okay? And over the course of a year, due to inflation, this pen goes up 10 times. If you don't own the pen, but you want the pen or need the pen, it's now 10 times more difficult to buy the pen. But if I own the pen, my pen's just gone up by 10 times. I'm now a lot richer, right, for the same asset. That's exactly how it works. And I hope that explains it so basically how it works, right? That's just the investment front. Then you've got the actual profiteering. And this is absolutely a thing. This is absolutely a thing. Now, this is the thing that I think everybody understands, right? You go down to Tesco's, you go down to, and I don't want to necessarily name brands, but you get the point, right? Supermarkets, fuel stations, a lot of goods and services, and it's like significantly more than what it was a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. That's not a long time, really. 5 years, not really. And it's a lot more, sometimes as much as 25% more. And this all ties back into the point. Why do they do this? Because, of course, they want to boost revenues. Now, that, of course, that directly results in more profits. But more profits results in higher profit reports, better earnings, Better earnings result in higher shareholder happiness. Cycle goes on, right? The cycle goes on. Now, it's quite funny because I just made a video speaking about the risks of investment on this YouTube channel. But let me explain this in no uncertain terms, guys. And this is opinion related. I need to say this before we jump into this particular part of the video. But it's at this point where a lot of people get so doomy and gloomy, right? But I don't think that's going to help you. Well, I know it's not, right? Because you can either sit there and let this happen to you, or you can, to a degree, find a way or think about it in a different light. We live in a market now where this is the world. This is the world. There's more and more pounds, dollars, euros because of not hyperinflation, but quantitative easing and inflation. There's more and more currency chasing the same or less assets. So you need to try and take your money, and again, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, of course. You should know that, right? I'm some 22-year-old guy sat in my bedroom with no shirt on, but this should be common sense anyway. You need to try and make as much money as possible. You don't want that money sat in money because money loses value. You want that money sat in assets which increase in value. I'll use a very, very common sense example. Anyone who's been in the markets over the last, let's say, year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5 years has been watching the stock market like double. I'm pretty sure it's up 50, I think it's over 100% on the S&P. Particular stocks, Nvidia, for example, even better. Gold. What's gold? Gold's over 4,000 now, I do believe, or very close on. Silver's just gone over 50. I actually own some of that, so it's not been bad for me, actually. But, you know, what I'm trying to say here is this. When you bought silver, and I'm speaking about something that I know about, a couple of years ago for $15, and now it's $50, you've actually made a fortune. Oh, and you've certainly beat inflation. Same is true with a lot of these assets. You can't be in a market, and if you'd have held cash, I want to say this as well. I was using an inflation calculator just out of interest the other day, and I was calculating from, I think it was mid-2020, so around about the COVID period, to early 2025. This must have been a couple of months ago now, but, you know, just calculating it. And what used to be £20, £20 note, you know, 20 pounds, is now 25. That's how much the buying power has decreased in the last 5 years. So holding cash is an awful idea. Seemingly, it's an awful idea. It's just going down and down, and you're not going to get any richer holding cash. But you do need cash as your initial asset to pour into these assets. Cash is the liquid asset. You can't pay your bills in gold. You can't pay your bills in Bitcoin. You can't pay your bills in Nvidia stock. But once you do have free cash reserves, or if you're able to get them, I think they need to go into assets. Most of my cash on hand is in assets. It is. Most of my cash on hand is in assets. I don't necessarily want to go into it over the course of this video, mainly because it's going to take forever otherwise. But I've got a couple of thousand in cash for holidays even, bills, unexpected emergencies, planned expenses even, any of these sorts of things. Things that, and yes, this is a luxury, I'm not going to say otherwise, things that I want to do, that's a choice, and things that I need to do, and unforeseen costs. But minus that, with a relatively strong margin of error built in, there is not any other cash for me. I don't have any other cash. I have assets. I have assets in the markets. I have lots of different assets, but to sum it up, really, that is as simple as it is. I just don't see how anyone's really holding cash in this market. It's a crazy market, and the cost of living crisis, to bring this video back round, means that someone's getting rich. So when you're hearing about inflation, don't necessarily think it's a terrible thing. It is a terrible thing for people who don't own the assets, and that's the way that they want it to be. But think about it in this direction. Don't think about it as everyone's getting poorer, because believe me, guys, they're not.